Even the people that have had a lot of training and a lot of experience, they also don't know what to do. They're just making shit up. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Performance Rehab Authority podcast. I'm Doc Raj.
And I'm Doc Caitlin.
And today we are going to talk about the massive amount of things that are different with expectations versus reality when you first get into PT school. Like, thinking you're going to be working with athletes and
doing badass things all the time and knowing what you're doing and...
Yep. And then just like for most people, settling into a life that they hate and they're miserable in and just kind of slowly dying on the inside day after day.
I was so unhappy my first year out of PT school because it was not what I expected. I was working shitty hours and weekends. I had we've talked about the problems with the industry already, but PTs are underpaid. So I had to get a second job where then I worked on the other weekends that I wasn't already working for my first job in ortho. And so the job that I could get on the weekends PRN was working in a setting that I didn't love and I actually hated it. So I was working in the hospital every weekend.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's a very common thing too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I never did it, but I know a bunch of people that have worked in the hospital to make ends meet that actually ended up making more working PRN in the hospital than they did at their full-time outpatient job, but they hated it.
Yeah, and so then you wake up on the weekends, you're super fucking resistant to going, but then you feel a lot better when you get your paycheck, which then makes you more resistant to your primary job because you're not getting paid as much.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I had a misunderstanding of what PTs actually even know, right? Like, I thought getting in the field, I was like, PT's gonna know all this shit. I'm gonna come out of school, I'm gonna be so good. Everybody is gonna be fit and active and healthy and know what they're doing because they're prescribing exercise, and that is just could not be farther from the truth. I got out of school and I realized that, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? Like, I had to go ask my boss to walk me through how to do a shoulder eval. I was like, hey, Tina, can you help me out? I got a shoulder eval, what do I do? She was like, check this, this, and this. I was like, okay, cool. And then I went and checked it, and I just walked myself through this. I mean, you guys, I think have heard the story before, but I walked myself through the eval just like that, behind the curtain, did a couple tests, whatever she told me to do, went back to her office, and I was like, well, I have no idea what to do. And then I realized that even the people that have had a lot of training and a lot of experience, have done a lot of Con Ed courses, like, they also a lot of times don't know what to do. They're just making shit up, throwing it at the wall, see what sticks. And I thought I was gonna come out of school and be like, man, I know what's going on. I'm gonna be able to help everybody. And that everybody's gonna wanna get better. People are coming to PT to get better.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that's a similarity across the board. Everybody comes out of school and realizes that they know the basics. They know enough to not hurt somebody, putting someone in more pain, but you could be the reason that somebody doesn't get out of pain. So you're not going to injure somebody, but you are going to keep them from getting better. But you go through school waiting for this moment of, now I know what I'm doing. And when you get out of school, you realize, wow, I've amassed all this information, but I don't know how to apply it. So I say all the time, I got out of school and I was super book smart. I studied so hard. I didn't have a life all through PT school. I was one of the people that stayed in on the weekends, and I was up until 10 o'clock fucking going through all my notes and my PowerPoints, and I wrote down everything, and I did the whole thing.
Nerd.
I had it. Yeah. And there's a ton of us out there like it, right? But when you have all those book smarts and you can't apply it, you just get so stuck. And so that's what I was expecting to change somehow when I graduated, and suddenly I was licensed and I had the ability to go out and help people, and I didn't have the ability to go out and help people.
Yeah, I think the problem is that nothing is textbook, right? Like, you can look at a textbook all day and know the answers of like a black and white, like, is it this or this? If you see exactly this, this, and this, oh, then it's this, and I can do this, but life is not like that, right? Like, C1, if you guys know upper cervical biomechanics with the alar ligaments and relative motion, if somebody looks to the right and side bends left, the only thing that happens is right rotation of C1, actual right rotation or relative right rotation. That, to me, I'm like, boom, that's C1, right? It's hardly ever textbook like that. Like, when somebody comes in and they're like, this hurts, and this hurts. I'm like, yes, C1, textbook, so easy to figure out. But yeah, it's rarely like that. People are complicated. They give you erroneous information that they think is helpful. They pull you off track. They talk about how their great aunts, uncles, dogs does cocaine, and then they fell over and broke their back 15 years ago. And it's like, what does that have to do with the ankle that you just rolled?
Well, those are all the ways that people pull you off track. But when you first get out of school, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to navigate those murky waters.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And you're seeing way more patients than you thought that you were going to. When I thought I was being smart when I got out of school, I went through all my interviews and I made sure to look and compare between all the jobs of, all right, but how many patients are you going to have me see an hour? And I chose the one with the least, but I was still seeing probably 2 to 4 people an hour. And then when you get an eval, you have to dump your patient on somebody else who already has 2 to 4 other patients of their own. And so we all have these whole huge caseloads that you just can't manage, and you can't provide quality of care because you're off talking to somebody else and setting somebody else on a timer while they do their exercise.
And thinking that you could like be in charge of what you're doing, right? Like, I had no idea that when I got out of school, insurance was going to be like, oh, hey, you only get a few visits. And then there's this big gap in care. Oh, no, we don't pay for that. Like, oh, then make sure that you're really concerned about the billing, the codes that you're using for billing, because we're going to get reimbursed more or less based on the fucking codes that you're using, which is ridiculous. Like, it's all the time and the treatment. It's like, oh, if you're doing something for therapeutic exercise purposes, it could be the same fucking exercise, but if you code it as therapeutic activities, like, you're gonna get more. And having to like think about that and having corporate push that shit down your throat, and it's like, I never expected any of that, you know?
Yeah. The things that you know insurance reimburses for, like hot packs and ultrasound.
Versus like teaching people how to take care of themselves and educating them and actually getting them better.
Yeah. When I was in PT school and I had started to learn some of this, I actually went as a patient to a physical therapy clinic. They did 2 rounds of ultrasound on my ankle because the tech that was administering that was waiting for the PT to be ready to see me. And the bill that I got in the mail was for all these units that included 2 units of ultrasound that had, I knew, nothing to do with my care, because what does the research say about ultrasound?
Yeah, it doesn't do much. If you guys are using ultrasound, like, really educate yourself on that, because the research shows that there's some early cell production, but there's no actual correlation to getting better outcomes, faster outcomes, results. Patients don't give a shit. It's like, you could actually be spending time doing something that's actually going to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all that aside, the other thing, that goes into the point of there being exercise aides or exercise techs that have no formal education working with the patients. So that's on the client experience side. And then on the PT side, you think that you're going to be the one that's going to be able to take people through their entire plan of care, but you just write down on a piece of paper and then you push them off to people who are going to do it for you, because you have to see all the new, more important patients.
I remember one time there was, when I was working at a former employer, again, won't name names, but there's a kid, Brandon, that worked there. He's a licensed PT now, but at the time, he was, I believe, an undergrad maybe, and he would run people through, like, he was a smart kid, he was into fitness, right? Like, we had a good relationship, and him and I worked together a lot, me as a PT and him as a tech. He would see all of the patients, right? Like, he would run most of them through their entire plans of care. There were times where people came in, and I was so busy that, like, I didn't even see them. Like, I literally didn't interact with them at all because, there was a fire to be put out, or there was an evaluation or whatever. People would come in and they'd be like, hey, can I see Brandon as my therapist today? And I'm like, no, you can't see him as your therapist because he's not a therapist yet. He is now, right? But like, he's not, at the time, not a therapist. Like, he's some kid in college, like, literally has no formal physical therapy education. Like, yeah, you're going to work with him, right? Because that's how the system works and that's what insurance dictates. And I'm going to bill for it under my license. Like, I did the treatment. But yes, you're going to work with him. But no, he's not a therapist. Like, people wouldn't even know the difference because they would spend so much time with the techs and the exercise aids, and they didn't even know that they weren't working with a therapist. And if we talk about that, it's like, that wasn't anything intentional on my end, but like, just unethical probably, of like, just the volume, right? Like, that just blows my mind that you're coming and you don't even know that the people you're working with aren't even licensed therapists.
And talking about expectations versus reality, the number of physical therapy clinics that they know and they intentionally bill unethically for the financial gain. Yeah.
Double booking Medicare. Like, oh, we'll just move them over and we'll say this person treated them. And it's like, you guys are, that's fraud.
And then the physical therapists are the one that are in there and they realize this. And if you want a job, you have to do what your company says. But you also feel that ethical dilemma. So, I mean, that's a whole other case of worms that, I mean, I've known PTs that left jobs because they just couldn't do it anymore and it was their license.
Yeah, I mean, they would look at like PTAs, right?
Yeah.
Like, listen, we have a strength coach that we use that's a PTA. Matthias, I love him, super smart guy. Better probably than a lot of PTs are, right? I've had a lot of time to interact with him and like, he's had a lot of time to learn from us, but in general, he gets it because of the lifestyle he lives as well, which fits with our clientele. But sidebar, like I cannot fathom that people go out and they see a PT as for an evaluation and then they never see the PT again until it's a reevaluation time, right? And the PTA does all of the treatment. And I talk about this with Matthias all the time because he's like, yeah, it's ridiculous. We can't do evaluations because every single time I'm treating, I'm like reassessing and reevaluating and then furthering the treatment from there. If you just have like a generic template of like, this is our plan next time, which you should always have, right? A plan for what you're going to do next time. But when they come in and things haven't gone according to plan in the meantime, like you need to be able to adjust the plan. What does that take? It takes evaluation and clinical reasoning and, you know, going from there. But we're saying that these people can't evaluate. They're not competent enough to evaluate is like, that's the logic behind it, right? They don't have the training, they don't have all the stuff, but we can put them in charge of all of the treatment, have the PT have absolutely no idea what's going on, and then, check in every once in a while, do a reassessment. Absolutely preposterous to me because if I see a patient that comes from somebody else, like I don't care if I completely trust and have total faith in that person, I don't just blindly follow their plan. I'm gonna like talk and check in and check a few things and make sure we're still on the right, the right path. I'm not gonna completely change a plan on somebody without talking to them either, but like I'm still gonna do my due diligence of assessing and making sure that like I think this person's getting the right treatment, right? Like, and I would never expect anybody to just blindly take like, hey, this is what they have going on. You're actually not competent, quote unquote, enough to evaluate. But here's what's going on. I want you to come up with, really the treatment plan. Like I come up with the treatment plan, right? But like you're enforcing it, you're really doing it, and you're progressing it, and you're making all the decisions. I don't get it. I just make it make sense.
Let's say everything was going according to the plan in the treatments. Most clinics, and this is another thing that was different than what's expected, most clinics don't have enough equipment to actually do what you want to do with your patients. It's all very low level things that get people back to insurance approved ADLs without pain, but it's not actually getting them back to an active lifestyle or to lifting weights or again, doing anything but ADLs. Underloading entirely,
right? Because in physical therapy, you guys know this, right? Like, but I didn't know this going to school, that you don't really get any movement or like exercise education. I'm like appalled after going through school that nowhere in there did we learn how to like really break down squats or deadlifts or like pushing, pulling, like looking at any of that stuff. Like there's no formal education, and it's like the amount of education you get on basic strength conditioning is nothing. They're like, oh yeah, you set a 10 rep max and then you take some weight off and you'll do it that way. I'm like, I'm not. It doesn't even fucking apply. Like, why? Where in your right mind do you set a rep max or a weight max with an injured patient? Like, oh, they're here for low back pain. Well, you know what we gotta do? Or they're here for knee pain. We gotta set 10 rep max. And then we'll base it off of there. Like, doesn't make any fucking sense at all. So now, like, hey, how many physical therapists actually have experience and competence in creating, designing, and progressing a basic strength regimen and understand terms like, linear periodization? Maybe some people get that, but then when we start talking about, like undulating, like daily undulating, all of these different just ways of programming, they don't get it. They don't understand. It's like, hey, you know what? 3 sets of 10. And not to fatigue, just 3 sets of 10.
Yeah. Well, and just looking at programming and exercise prescription in general, You would think that what you learn in PT school, just like Roger said, would be adequate, but you really don't even learn anything in PT school. So then you have to seek out other authorities to learn it from after graduation. And it's not somebody in the physical therapy realm that's providing it. It's someone from the NSCA or something like that, of the authorities who have all the credentials.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't incorporated at the top level in physical therapy, and it's not trickling down from there.
At this point, I don't even go to really mostly, I mean, I guess we'll start going a little bit now, but like to physical therapy conferences. Like I get way more out of going to strength and conditioning, performance, like related conferences and being around those types of people because they get it. You know, a minute ago I said maybe people understand linear periodization. And then as I'm thinking here, I'm like, yeah, they understand it, but they don't apply it, right? Like they don't come in and have a progressive pattern of overloading in their patient's care. They jump from one exercise to the next, and it's like, all right, we're gonna do these exercises today, and then we're gonna switch and we're gonna do these exercises, and we're gonna switch and we're gonna do these exercises. And you look at any basic strength program, and it's the same series of exercises for like, 8 to 12 weeks, and it's progressively overloaded, maybe depending on the program, less than that, right? But like, you're not looking at, 1 week or 2 weeks of the same exercises. You're looking at a minimum, typically around 4 weeks of the same exercises before you switch to maybe a different variant of the same exact exercise. But it's linearly overloaded. Each week, what are we doing? We're doing either more reps, we're doing more weight, we're adding a different tempo. It's like progressively overloaded. So while people might understand the concept, it's not applied in therapy.
Yeah, you look at a lot of PTs who update the entire program every single week, and they're like, all right, time to progress. You did your week of exercises, and then suddenly the patient's having a hard time a few weeks out and things are coming back because you've progressed way too quickly and gone through all these different progressions when you should have been linearly working on this and adding load, but doing a lot of the same building blocks.
Yeah, I would say what most people in that situation are calling a progression. It's not really a progression, it's just a change. It's a change, you're changing the program. You're not progressing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think part of it too is because PTs are trying to make the clients happy because there's this impression or there's this thought that you have to change it from time to time in order to appease the patient. Like, patients are going to be disappointed if they come in and do the same exercises.
Yeah, well, I think there's validity to that. But it's because you haven't helped them understand the value and you haven't set the expectation of what rehab's going to look like for them. And like that's what it is. If you set the expectation, like I will tell people all the time that, hey, we're not going to change your exercises up every time that you come in here, right? We're going to make sure that you're doing them correctly. We're going to review them. We're going to progress them. Maybe we'll add some other things in here and there, but we're going to progressively overload just like any good strength program. And they're like, that makes sense. But for us, we're not having come in here 2, 3, 5 times a week to do the shit that they could be doing at home.
Yeah.
We're teaching them how to do it. And then when they come in here, we're making sure they're still doing it correctly. We're giving them videos of it, right? Video instruction for in between, but we're making sure they're doing it correctly. We're tweaking things. We're progressing it. So they're not just doing the same shit that they're doing at home. They're not coming in here wasting their fucking time doing it.
So I think all that circling back to like things that we didn't expect, all of that, by the way, you actually don't have time for, because the minute somebody's out of pain doing daily activities, they're not seeing you anymore because insurance doesn't reimburse it.
In our clinic, we have a whole rogue rig, right? We've got a power rack. Like, that means there's pull-up bars. That means there's barbells. That means there's bumper plates. That means there's kettlebells. There's dumbbells up to 100 pounds. It means we've got sandbags. We've got a strongman log over there. It's like we have the equipment. We've got a GHD, like the things that people need to get back to the things they want to do. Like, you can't progress them back to those kind of things if you don't have the equipment to do it, which leaves your hands tied, right? But in that situation, I guess that's like another expectation versus reality, right? Like, you expect to be able to help people get back to the things that they want to do. And then you realize that you're not even provided the tools that you need to get people back to the things they want to do. Yeah, sure, if you're working with a grandma and she wants to like get on the ground and off the ground, which is very important, don't diminish that, but like, that's about all you're well equipped for, right? Someone comes in, they're like, hey, I have pain with deadlifting and it's only when I'm deadlifting 400 pounds. Well, you better have 400 pounds to be able to deadlift, right? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to help them. You're not even going to be able to accurately assess them because there's probably a breakdown in what's happening between 350 and 400.
Yeah.
You need to be able to look and see. You need to know how to break it down. That's a whole nother episode, though.
All of these things aren't just novel, you've never heard them before. I know you're familiar with each of these things as a problem and as something that was different than what you expected. And so part of my story, when all of this added up and I was getting so frustrated, I sat with my boss and I tried to drive change. I was like, okay, I'm not seeing the patients I want to see. They're not coming in. Like, I don't have the ability to do all these different things in the clinic. So I had him set up a meeting with some of the people that were even higher up. So we were in the conference room. We were talking about ways that we could improve it. And it started with getting more people who were active because I didn't have a very active population. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll go meet up with athletic trainers at the high school and I'll start this whole athletic service line. And they let me. And so I would go before work in my own time, by the way. I didn't get paid for any of this. I went for 2 to 3 hours a week, every week, and before coming in, and attended high school football games for probably 3 months. And nothing came of it because something that they already knew was these high schools and these athletic trainers had contracts with other physical therapy facilities or with other physicians who had their own physical therapy practices. And so I was out there, in the field, making connections, learning, but it didn't do anything for my caseload. It didn't do anything for my clinic. And the service line that they were letting me start was all kind of bullshit. And they had just approved it because it would make me happy. And so
that's fucked up.
Yeah, and so it just didn't work. So ultimately, and by the way, that was followed by my first annual review that I got a 25-cent raise after doing all of that in my own time. And so I realized I could settle for this and keep living that life, or I could do something to drive a change and make myself happy. So I started looking at other employers. I looked for different jobs, but in that model, or just in the physical therapy industry in general, that's par for the course. That's what is everywhere. And so no matter how many jobs I applied at or interviewed at, I was like, wow, none of these are going to make me happy. And so at that point, I realized they were all the same. I quit my job and I started my own practice and started charging cash for physical therapy so that I could work with people one-on-one and so that I could go work with active adults. So all that to say, if you're happy in the clinic that you're at and you just want to make a better difference and give quality care, that's awesome. I was just so fed up with all of the shit that's wrong in the physical therapy industry.
Yeah, I think it's really jacked up that they let you go do that. But I think that goes right along with expectations versus reality of, hey, if I work hard for a company, then I'll be rewarded. Right? I'll get a raise, I'll get a promotion, I'll do these things, I'll be recognized. And, in reality, they're like letting you do that to make you happy, to shut you up, knowing that nothing's going to come of it and to not reward you for it at all, which is, that's pretty jacked up. For me, I opened my own cash practice too when I decided that this isn't going to work, right? When I realized that the people that are coming to see me that were athletes, because, owned a gym in the area, all that stuff, when people were coming to see me, I wasn't able to see them through their plan of care. And I woke up and I was like, dude, this is not what I want to do with my life. And I had to have a conversation and ask myself, what do you mean this isn't what you want to do? You don't want to help people? It's fucked up if you don't want to help people, like it's your whole job. And I was like, nah, that's not it. It's the way that it's being done, right? And I was complaining about it. You can either complain about it or you can do something about it, right? But complaining about a problem without proposing a solution is just whining. Caitlin tried to propose a solution and they didn't set her up for success. And my only proposed solution was, I don't see a way to fix this, right? To work somewhere, to be able to treat the way that I want to treat. So my solution was that I proposed to myself, well, go open a practice. Figure out if people will pay you cash. At that point, I had an irrefutable stack of evidence that I was pretty damn good at what I did,
Yeah. I think too, like Roger and I know our stories and experiences are not unique. This is going on all over the board and all over the industries. We've actually been part of a mastermind of physical therapy entrepreneurs who all left because they had similar experiences and they started their own thing. And some people are just so fed up. So it is up to all of us to drive the change that we want to see in the physical therapy industry as a whole.
Yeah. So if you guys are watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, why not? Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and then, if you find any value in what we're saying and you guys want to learn more, as a reminder, we have this free training for you guys that we put together about the way that we treat clinically with immediate things that you can, or actionable steps that you can immediately implement into your patient care. Totally free. Link in the bio down below. Sign up. And remember, if you're unhappy or unfulfilled in your life or your career, like, nobody's coming to save you, right? Nobody is coming to save you. No one. It is your responsibility to lead by example, to pursue excellence, to learn new skills,
and to welcome the challenge of raising the bar. Drive the change you want to see.